Watching a news report a while back, and it was about the sentencing of a young man who had been convicted of killing a young woman. And in the courtroom at the sentencing, the mother of the slain woman got to say some words to her daughter's killer. And she looked him in the eye and she said, "I hate you. You are the most despicable human being that has ever lived. I hope every day of your life is miserable, and I hope that when you die, you rot in hell." That's very powerful words. I myself have had a very blessed life. I have never had any loved one suffer from a heinous crime or a brutal act. So I do not know how I would respond, possibly with that same anger and anguish that that mother felt. But what I'd like to do this morning is I'd like to share with you some stories of people who were in similar situations who reacted differently. The first story I'd like to share took place in 2006. Probably many of you remember it. It was the Amish school shooting in Pennsylvania. A man walked into a one-room Amish schoolhouse and lined up 5 schoolgirls and shot them execution style. And then he took his own life. Well, that very evening, the parents of those 5 little girls visited the home of the gunman's family. And they brought with them flowers and food, and they greeted them with hugs. And a few days later, at the funeral for the gunman, half of the people in the church were the Amish community, including the parents of those 5 little girls. Now, reporters outside the church spoke to one of the Amish men and said that this was extraordinary. And the Amish man said, "This is what we believe. This is what Jesus instructed us to do, to forgive instantly." But it sounds extraordinary to us. Now, another example comes from the genocide in Rwanda. Some of you may be familiar with a woman whose name is Immaculée Ilibagiza. And she wrote a book about her experiences. It was on PBS. She gave a special. And Immaculée was one of 7 women who spent 91 days in a small little bathroom. The bathroom was 3 feet by 4 feet. So there's 7 women in this bathroom, and they were there hiding for 91 days. The bathroom was hidden. It was in the home of their pastor, and it was hidden behind a big, huge dresser. But after the genocide was over, Immaculée discovered that her entire family had been killed in the genocide. And she wanted to visit the man who was responsible for killing her parents. And she went to the prison to see him, and she just said 3 words to him: "I forgive you." And as she walked from the prison, one of the guards said to her angrily, "How could you forgive him?" And she later learned that the guard had also lost family members in the genocide. But she tells a story in her book about how a year later, she happened to run into that guard again. And he said, "Immaculée, I have to tell you, you changed my life. I was so full of anger and bitterness. And when I saw that you, after 91 days of hiding in a small bathroom and discovering your entire family had been murdered, you were able to forgive so easily." And what she says in the book is this: "When he saw that I could forgive and move on with my life after all that I'd been through and lost, he knew that this was also what he wanted to do. I believe it's only when we have the peace of mind that forgiveness brings us that we're able to move on with our lives fully. Again, another extraordinary story to be able to have the freedom that forgiveness brings. There is a tribe in Africa where when someone in the tribe commits a crime, even a crime like murder, they take that person and they put him in the center of everyone in the tribe. They form a circle around him. And what they do for 2 full days is everyone goes around and they speak words of love to that person. They tell that person everything that they admire about him, all the great gifts that he brings to the tribe. And once those 2 days are over, the crime is forgotten. It's never mentioned again. Extraordinary. And it's pretty amazing. I don't know if many of us can say we can forgive like the Amish, like Immaculée, like the people in this African tribe. But it's what Jesus in this gospel today really calls us to do. It's called the 70 times 7 gospel. And I remember when I was a kid and I first heard it, I did the little mathematical thing and I said, oh, well that means that if it's 491 times that somebody does something wrong, well then I don't have to forgive him anymore. But Jesus, of course, is symbolic here, as he often is, and is saying we just have to forgive over and over and over again. This goes so against our humanness. It goes so against our ego, which wants payback, which wants to say, you did me wrong, well now I want payback. And what Jesus is saying here is no. And we know that Jesus' whole ministry was about forgiving. He was the one who said, turn the other cheek. Which seems so strange to us that someone would strike us, that we would turn the other cheek. Jesus gave us a beautiful prayer, which we say every Sunday here. And one of the key points in that prayer is, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And then, of course, Jesus in his own life, as he walked towards the cross, he was stripped naked, he was beaten and whipped and nailed, and on the cross, he said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. This is the type of forgiveness we're called to do. And you may say, well, I can't do that. I mean, that was Jesus. I can't do that. But remember, Jesus said, everything that I have done, you can do. These things and greater. We can forgive to this level if we choose. Or we can choose to hold on to the anger. Now, Buddha said 2 famous quotes about holding on to anger. He said, holding on to anger is like picking up a hot coal to throw to someone who did you wrong. And what happens? You just got burned. And then he also said holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. But one of my favorite quotes about forgiveness is, forgiveness is releasing someone from prison and then realizing that the prisoner was you. That's what 70 times 7 equals. It equals freedom. That's why the front cover of our bulletin says the road to freedom. It fits the Exodus reading, but it also fits this. When we forgive, we have peace. St. Francis of Assisi wrote that very famous peace prayer. And he says in that prayer, It is in pardoning that we are pardoned. And you know, to receive a pardon, whether it's a presidential pardon or a judge gives a pardon, it means that this person was found guilty of something, but we are releasing them. When we do that to someone who did us wrong, we are pardoning them, and St. Francis says, and then we are pardoned. And that's why we're freed, and it brings us peace. So that is what 70 times 7 means. It means that we can forgive instantly. Now, I read once that there are 7 levels of forgiveness, and it shows where you are on your spiritual path and in your spiritual maturity. It says level 1 are the people who can never ever forgive. Level 2 are the people who, on their deathbed, can forgive. Level 3 are the people who, after many, many, many years, can finally forgive someone. Level 4 is people after many months. Level 5 is people after many weeks. Number 6 is people after many days. And number 7 is people who can forgive instantly. Instantly. Now, I don't know if I'm there yet. And I want us to have patience with ourselves. We're all on this journey together of spiritual growth and spiritual maturity. What I love is when Jesus was on the cross, he didn't say, I forgive you. He said, Father, forgive them. And that has helped me so much with forgiveness. I'm not doing it alone. I'm calling upon God to say, God, help me here. I'm having so much trouble forgiving this hurt, forgiving this person. So God, I call on you to forgive them. We can always call on that power of forgiveness, and receive that peace through the power of forgiveness.